All right, so we are diving into chapter 8.1 here. How this is going to be is it's going to be, we're going to be learning how to cost out perpetual inventory. Okay, so if you've seen the worksheets that we're going to be working with today, it's going to look a lot different than what we're normally used to, because in this case, right, we are adding another section in this little table right here, right? This is the perpetual inventory costing worksheet here, where we're introducing this small section here on the left, which is the cost of goods sold. In the middle here is the purchases, and then on the right is your inventory on hand. Because when we first purchase our inventory, the first thing we gotta do is we gotta transfer and put it into inventory on hand. So that's essentially the same thing here. So this time we're gonna be working this page in groups of different different columns. So the first 3 columns is going to be anything that you do for the cost of goods sold, while in the middle, right, the 6 lines in the middle, or 6 rows in the 6 columns in the middle, is going to be anything that you purchase. And then on the right side, the last 3 columns, is going to be anything that you have on hand. Okay, so just keep in mind, this is the worksheet that we're going to be taking a look at, but for the PowerPoint, it's going to look slightly different, okay? So let's go ahead and get started with our first method, which is perpetual inventory for FIFO, okay? We already talked about how the costing methods work, right? We already talked about the difference between periodic and perpetual inventory. Now this time, the concepts of costing your inventory is going to be, they're going to be using the same exact cost. So we will be looking at it, but it's just a slightly different calculation, because now we're introducing keeping track of the goods that we sell. Okay, so that's why in this case, right, we have periodic and we have perpetual, FIFO, LIFO, and some kind of average, right? But in this case, when we're looking at perpetual, it's the same idea. However, because we have that contributing factor where we're constantly updating our inventory at the same time, this is where we have to keep really crucial track, and this is where a lot of your calculations can you can make mistakes very easily here, okay? But of course, we looked at FIFO, which is first in, first out, which is typical for many grocery stores. Just because they have some expiration date on foods. So obviously you would definitely want to sell things that are going to expire soon first than things that are going to expire later on in the year. Last in, first out is going to be LIFO, which is anything that's like kind of like an electronics store where you're going to come out with later models, and usually those later models would typically sell first. And then we have moving average. Okay, so here's the difference between periodic and perpetual. It's the same idea. However, one is weighted average, meaning at the very, very end, you weigh all the total costs and you calculate all your total quantity, and you get an average. In this case, we're going to be moving the average along, which means every time you sell something, every time you purchase something, you're constantly recalculating an average cost per item, which is called moving average, okay? And of course, last but not least, we're not going to ever talk about specific ID, okay? So with that being said, let's go ahead and introduce to first in, first out. So all this stuff is going to be very, very, very familiar, because we know how to use periodic and FIFO, right? Now in this case, we're looking at perpetual FIFO. The idea is still going to be the same, where you're going to still keep track of the first batches that you've purchased, and you're slowly going to get rid of them, okay? So in this case, right, the formulas are slightly different in regards to making the calculations, okay? But when we solve for purchases and the total cost, all of those are all going to be the same, including the cost per unit or cost per item. The only thing that's going to be different is going to be your goods available, okay, and your cost of goods sold, right? These are the calculations that we're going to be constantly calculating throughout the entire time when we complete their inventory worksheet. So every time we make a purchase, we have goods available recalculated. Every time you have you sell a product or sell something at the store, you're constantly calculating your cost of goods sold. So in this case, they're all going to be quantity 1 times quantity times total cost 2, okay? Or in this case, cost of goods sold is going to be quantity times cost per item, okay? And of course, ending inventory. We always know what the ending inventory is. It's going to be your total cost minus cost of goods sold, which is equal to your ending inventory, which in this case, right? This will always be given, all right? So let's go ahead and take a look into our first example here, where we're going to make a bunch of purchases and and we sell along the way. So the very first scenario we have here is on June 1st that we made a purchase of 100 toys for $1.25 with the freight costing $25. Okay. So there we go. We're going to plug it into our inventory worksheet just like this, right? Where we have our quantity. Its cost per item is $1.25, and the freight is $25. So just exactly how we did for periodic, we're going to solve it exactly the same, where we get our purchase right here, which is $125 plus my freight of $25 to give me a total cost of $150. And because we're doing FIFO, we are still obligated to keep track of each batches of inventory that we purchase. So in this case, it's going to be your total cost divided by my quantity of 100 to give you $1.50. Okay. So that's your first thing that you have there, is that this is my very first batch of inventory that I have. Okay. So then the next thing we have here is that on June 3rd, you sold 55 toys for $5 each. Okay. Now, of course, when we're looking at sold, right, we're selling it at its selling price, which in this case is $5. However, when we calculate our cost of goods sold, this is where we're going to come back to our inventory worksheet and we're going to figure this number out. So we sold a total of 55 units, right? Our batch of inventory, right? How much is going to cost me in order to sell that item? In this case, I got one batch of inventory, which costs a total of $1.50 each toy. So if I sold 55 of those at $1.50, which is what it's going to cost me to sell the item, it's going to be, you're gonna take this number here and you're gonna carry over, because it's the cost per item, and you're gonna figure out this number right here. What's the total cost? So 55 times $1.50 is going to be $82.50. And what you're going to do here is, because you sold and got rid of 55 items, this is what you're going to do. You're going to take those 55 items and you're going to try to subtract it out of the inventory that you have. So then when you calculate this, right, you should now have only 45 items left available at a total cost of $67.50, which still holds $1.50, okay? So that's the new inventory right there, is that one batch of inventory that you first have is now become 45 because you sold 55 of them. Okay. Is this clear so far? Okay. So here we have the next example on June 5th that you end up purchasing another 100 toys for $1.28 with a freight of $26. So once again, we're going to plug that number in there, okay? And yeah, so 100 times $1.28 gives you 128, plus 26 gives you a total cost of 154, which now, because this is the second batch of inventory, we need to also calculate the cost per item, which in this case, 154 divided by 100 is $1.54. And I'm going to label this one as my second batch, which is going to be red. Okay. Then the next scenario, on June 10th, you made another purchase of 100 toys for $1.30. So this one's straightforward. We'll plug it in, right? Do all your calculations, and I made this batch green. So now we have a total of 3 batches of inventory that we have right now, okay? So if you guys remember from periodic, we stacked them all up, and then we subtract everything. In this case, no, this is not how it works. It's weaving in and out throughout the scenario. So if I purchase something and I sell something in the middle of it, it's going to weave in and out, and it's going to take away whichever batch that you purchased first, because we're doing FIFO. So here I have a total of 3 batches of inventory, right? I have my first batch of 45 for yellow, and then my second batch is red at 100, and my third batch is green at 100 items. Okay? So then let's go ahead and see what happened next. Now in this case, on June 12th, you sold 120 toys. Okay? So in this case, right, if we're using FIFO, right, the same concept, same idea, which batch of inventory am I going to be selling out first?
The 45?
Exactly, the yellow batch of 45, right? And then, of course, we have to sell a total of 120 toys, right? So that means I have to dip another 75 in my second batch, okay? So my first 45, right, is the first one in my yellow batch. I'm going to carry that over, which I already know because since I'm getting rid of the whole entire thing, I know it's $67.50, okay? And of course, you could subtract that out to get your yellow batch to be 0. And then now all I have left is my red and my green batch. So I have to sell 75 more units. So how am I going to, what cost per item am I going to be using to sell for my remaining 75 units? Red batch or green batch?
The red batch.
We're going to take away from the red batch, which its cost per item is $1.54. So in this case, once I've calculated all that, I'm going to subtract another 75, right, to bring my red batch to equal 25 left remaining at $38.50, right? So then I'm going to go ahead and tally up my total. So here I sold a total of 120 at a total of $183. Now in this case, right, we're looking at selling the whole batch of inventory. So at the end of the day, right, we're not going to say, we're not going to journalize, we got rid of this 45 batch and then we got rid of this 75 batch for the inventory when we sold a total of 120. You're going to journalize it as an overall amount because in this case, right, you know, it's to save you some journal space, but also it's the same difference if you just take those two numbers and because you're going to put them in the same account anyways. They're all being taken out from the same account anyways. So in this case, you don't need to do a double entry, one for 45 and one for 75. You could just do a simple one entry for all 120 toys that you sold. Okay, so that leaves you with green batch for 100 and red batch for 25. Okay, and I believe that is the end of this scenario here, that you should have 125 at the end of June. I'm sorry, on June 15. And you should have sold a total of 175 units. So that is the conclusion there. Okay. So in this case, right, you do not need to have a conversion entry because your items are already inventory. So in this case, you do not need a conversion entry. Okay? So then what happens when you have beginning inventory? Okay, well, in this case, right, in order to do beginning inventory, right, it says right here that on June 15, you had a total of 125 toys on hand, costing a total of $195.50, which let's see, which is exactly what we have here, $195.50. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to carry it across and bring it into the next inventory worksheet exactly how you purchased it. So that means you're going to carry the red batch of 25 and then you're going to carry your green batch of 100, and that's where you're going to start with your beginning inventory, right? That's the first thing you're going to do is that you're going to acknowledge that you have beginning inventory and this is what it is. Okay? In the exact order, right? So then let's see what it says here on June 18. You end up selling 90 toys at $5 each. Okay? So 90 toys, okay? Now, in this case, right, looking at my total inventory, I have a whole total of 125 items left in inventory, right? But in this case, which batch am I going to take out from first? Since I have to sell a total of 90. Yes, you're going to take your red batch of 25. All right? 25 minus 90 gives you 65. So that means when I get rid of my red batch of 25, that means I need to take another 65 from my green. Okay? So there you go. I'm going to take my cost per item, carry it over, and I'm going to calculate. In this case, since I'm taking the whole batch of inventory, I already know that my red batch is remaining is $38.50. So I just pop that in there right there, and then I take it out from my inventory. So that should leave me with nothing in my red batch. So now I only have left is my green batch, which I know the cost per item is $1.57. Okay? And if it's $1.57 times 65, you should get a total of $102.05. All right? Which you're going to subtract it out again to give you now your green batch to be left remaining at 35 units at a total cost of $54.95. Okay? Everyone good so far?
Yes.
So then, last but not least, we have is, well, actually, sorry, not last but not least. Let's see. On the 21st, you end up purchasing 100 toys for $1.32 in the freight of 26. So just as usual, you're going to plug it in, right? Got your total purchases of 132 plus 26 gives you a total of 158, right? Which leaves you $1.58. And I'm going to also make that another color just so then I can keep track of it, okay? And then it says here on the 25th of June, we end up purchasing an additional 100 toys, but this time at $1.35, which there you go. I already did the calculation. So now I have 3 batches of inventory left remaining in my inventory, right? I have a green one for 35, a blue one for 100, and an orange one for 100, okay? So then on the 27th, you end up selling another 120 toys for $5 each. So once again, looking at the batches of inventory, which one am I going to take out from first?
You still have a 35, no?
Yep, you're going to take the 35 first. Okay.
And yeah, and then the blue one.
And then the blue one. Okay, good.
So how many you have to buy? I forgot. I'm sorry.
Your total is 120.
120. So you take a part of the blue one. So it's 135. So 15 minus. So it's have to be 85 from the blue one.
Yes, so that's exactly what we're doing. We're going to take 35. Since we already know we're going to take the full 35 out, the calculation's already done for you. So you know it's $54.95. So we're going to subtract that out. So then now we only have left is my blue batch and my orange batch. In this case, we are going to take 85 out from my blue batch. So just like that, right, I'm going to take it out. So then I should have left is 15 from my blue batch. Okay. Last but not least, on June 28, you end up selling an additional 65 toys for $5 each. So in this case, right, I have left is my blue and my orange. Blue is going to be eliminated automatically because that's what I have left, right? In this case, I know what my blue batch is. It's for $23.60, and I'm going to get rid of all of it. So I'm going to subtract that whole entire thing out. So then the next thing I got to do is now, because I took 15 and I sold a total 65, I have to take 50 out more remaining from my orange batch, which in this case, if I take that 50 out, I should have a remainder of 50 from the orange batch, costing at a grand total of $81 even. Okay. Any questions in regards to this calculation right here?
No.
No?
No. No.
All right, then. Okay. So, let's go ahead and get started with the exercise. Right? So this time with the exercise, it's going to be much easier to compute and to complete. Excuse me, not compute. Just because you have a little more space, a little more area for you to be able to make your changes or to do your calculations here properly. But I will be self-referencing a lot of these things, okay? So let's go ahead and do the first problem. So scenario number 1, this is the 8.1 perpetual inventory FIFO method, okay? Your inventory method is perpetual and it's FIFO, okay? So starting with the very first thing, let me make this a little bigger so you guys can see. On May 5th, okay, you purchased 1,000 units at $3 on an account. Freight costs $100. So in this case, I believe I do not have you practice the journals just because this one, I just want you to practice using the worksheet. So no journalizing here, okay? So let's go ahead and work on the first one, which is that we purchased 1,000 toys at $3 each and freight was $100. So this is May 5th, okay? Inventory worksheet number 1. We're going to skip the first section. The first section is the cost of goods sold. We didn't even purchase inventory yet, so we don't technically have anything to sell. But right here is my purchases. I purchased 1,000 units at $3 each with the freight costing $100. So, with that being said, what is my total, what is my total purchases?
3,000.
right? 3,000. Okay.
3,100 with freight
Okay.
and 3.1.
Right? It's going to cost me $3.10 for each item here. Okay. And because we have this batch of inventory, right? I'm going to go ahead and carry that amount over into my inventory on hand. So at least I know how much I have at the end of every time we sell a product, okay? Oops. What did I copy? Oh yeah, 3,100. Okay, 3,100, okay? Now, if you want to, you can have your little total at the bottom so you know how much total you have at all times. It's up to you. But in this case, I want to be consistent, and I'm going to show you it this way first, and then we can go ahead and make changes if you prefer to use it or not. But I'm going to go ahead and use colors just so then we are all on the same page. And I'm going to start off with the orange batch. Oh, not color. We're going to do a fill. Okay, I'm going to make this orange. Okay. So that's my very first batch of inventory, right? Okay. So then on May 7th, you end up selling 550 units at $10 each. Okay, so 550 units is what we're going to sell. So in this case, right, it's May 7, and we're going to go into the cost of goods sold section, which we know to be that we sold a total of 5,500 units, right? 5,500 units. 550 units, excuse me. So then, right, we only have one batch of inventory, right? We only have this orange batch. How much is it going to cost me to sell the orange batch? What's the cost per item for the orange batch?
$1.10.
$3.10, right? So therefore, what is going to be my total cost here?
1,705.
Okay. Now in this case, this is where I'm going to be practicing using equal round here, only on the cost of goods sold, because this is where your journal is going to be, this is the number that you're going to be taking and placing it into your journal. So let's see, 1,005, you said 705 even?
Yes, 705.
Okay, perfect. Now this is what I'm going to do. For this practices purposes only, I want you to see this so then when they post the answers, it's not gonna, it's gonna be explained where the numbers come from. So in this case, right, I am going to subtract 550 items, and it was a total cost of $17.05. Okay? Now, of course, this belongs to the batch of inventory, right? So in this case, it's pretty straightforward, right? If I have 1,000 items and I subtracted 550, how much should I have left over?
450.
450, right? Same idea here. If I started with 3,100 and I sold 1705, how much should I have left?
Oh, 1,395.
Good, right? And this all belongs to the orange batch, okay? So that means at the end of the day, after I sold something, right, I should have 450 items remaining. So what I'm going to do is, now that I completed my transaction here, right, I'm going to go ahead and now update my inventory, because right now it shows me that I have 1,000 items in inventory when I really don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and update this from 1,000, right? You could do calculations if you'd like, 1,000 minus 550, or you can just type it in 450 because that's exactly what we have here. And I'm going to press enter. And when I press enter, it's going to tell me that my total cost right now should be $13.95. And this way, I can verify that my calculations are correct and it's still at $3.10 each. Okay? So that verifies me that I started out with 1,000 items at 3,100 and I got rid of 550 items at 1,705 to get me at the end with 450 items remaining at a total cost of $13.95. Okay? And your inventory on hand is the most important thing because this is what we have literally in our inventory, right? I purchased 1,000, I sold 550, so I should have now remaining 450 units left. Right?
So one question: how you write that? Because at the beginning you write the inventory hand $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
You just write on the purchase that you sell 500 and you have remain for 450 and then 400. I don't know. Is that's how you're writing that? Because for to calculate everything, you cannot erase the 1,000 and put 450 just like that.
Not in the purchases,
No.
but on your inventory on hand, absolutely. You could always change that, yes.
Okay.
Because in your inventory on hand, do we still have that 1,000 items?
No, we have a 450.
Exactly.
That I understand the numbers. That how we write that, how we supposed to write that. So you're supposed to have the same number. You're supposed to do what you sell. You're supposed to on the purchase. You're supposed to show that you sell 550.
In this case, I'm doing this so then when I post the answers, right, you know where I got this number from.
Oh, okay.
The next time we do this exercise, I'm going to eliminate doing the calculations in the middle part.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's a little more cleaner and a little more easier. But in this case,
to see that,
yeah, I'm only doing it for this exercise so you know where I got these numbers from.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Because in reality, I don't do it like this. But as we go and progress and stuff, right? You don't need to have this. You could just simply say I bought 1,000 and just get rid of it and update it on your inventory on hand as much as you want to, right? But in this case, because I'm going to post the answers after this, you need to kind of have a clear vision of where the numbers come from. Yes.
All right, thanks.
Okay. So that was the second thing that happened, right? We end up selling and now we only have 450 items remaining. Okay. All right, so then on May 10, we end up purchasing 850 units at $3.25 each with a freight costing of $75. Okay. So we purchased 850 at $3.25 with a freight of $75. Right, let's see. 850, $3.25, $75. Okay. So there we have it. Now, here, let's go ahead and calculate what my purchases is. What's my total purchases?
$27.62.50.
Good. Plus 75 gives me a total cost of
$37.50.
$37.50. Okay. And then the cost per item is going to be
$3.34.
$3.34. In this case, let's extend it out just to make sure that it's $3.34 even. But I think in this case, yeah, it's $333,823. Okay. Keep this number unrounded because once again, if we're selling units, you know, at a large scale, you don't want to under or over cost yourself. So let's just keep this the way it is. So 3.3383 or 8235. Okay, we'll keep that number there. Okay. So now we're going to carry this new batch of inventory over because now we have a second batch of inventory. Okay. Okay. At $2,837.50. Okay. And I'm going to make this color, let's see. I'm going to make this color green. Okay. Okay, so we have a green batch for the 850 items. That's my second batch of inventory that I just purchased. So I have total of 2 batches, right? The orange batch for 450 and the green batch for 850, right? And if you have your totals at the bottom, you should have a total of 1,300. Okay. So then let's go ahead and see what happened next. Then on May 12th, we end up selling 360 units at $10 each. Okay. So in this case, we sold on May 10, 360 units? Let's see, 360. Oh, wait, hold on. May 10 is when we purchased. May 12th is when we sold 360. Okay. So here we sold 360 units. Now let's take a look. Which batch of inventory are we going to take out from first?
The orange one.
The orange one, okay? So what's my cost per item for the orange one?
3.10.
$3.10, right? So let's go ahead and do my calculation here. What's my total cost of goods sold?
Is 1,116.
$1,116. Okay, good. And so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to carry my orange batch down so I know this is how much I have, right? And this time, right, I sold 360 units. So therefore, how much should I have left of my orange batch?
Still have a 90.
Yes, you should have 90 units left. Okay? And if I started out with $13.95 and I sold $11.16, right? How much should I have left remaining?
$279.
$279. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this and I'm going to make this orange so you know that this came from the orange batch. Okay? And what I'm going to do is now I calculated my stuff, right? I only have 90 left in my orange batch, which 90 times $3.10 gives you $279. Okay. All right. Everyone good so far?
Yes.
Okay. So then let's see what happened next. Then on May 15, you end up selling 600 more units at $10 each. So in this case, we're on May 15, you sold 600 more units. May 15, we sold 600 units, okay? Now let's take a look at our inventory on hand. Which batch are we going to start from first? Which batch are we going to eliminate first?
The orange.
The orange, which only has 90, okay? Now, how much more do we need to sell from my green batch if I have to sell 90 from the orange? Yep, 510. So right here, this is what I'm going to be doing here. This is a calculation. So I'm going to make sure I keep this separate because at the end of the day, like I've mentioned before, right? We're going to journalize it as a whole number, not separate. We're not going to journalize the 90 first and then journalize the remaining 510. Okay, so this is going to be a calculation. However, let's see. Let's take a look at 90. 90 items, right? Costing at $3.10 should still give you the amount, right? I'm going to just do the calculation so I'm consistent here. But it should give you the calculation total amount of $279. All right? And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to eliminate that. So I'm going to say that I sold 90 to get me from 90 to negative 90 gives me 0, right? And I'm going to subtract the 279 to get me to 0, okay? And this batch right here belongs to the orange, okay? This helps you keep track of this because when you do go and when you are the inventory manager, right? You do need to kind of keep track of what happened during the rest of the period, right? But if this is the best way that you're able to do it, you can do it this way. But if you don't like using colors or you don't like, keeping track of it, that's fine too. But then at the end of the day, you will never know what happened the day before, or if you do fast forward a month later, you would not know what you did before that. Okay. So there you go. So I eliminated my orange batch and it's now down to 0. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to put 0 in my orange batch. So now I don't have my orange batch anymore. It's gone, completely gone. Okay. But however, I still have to sell 510 more items left. And in this case, my cost per item for the green batch is what?
That is 3.338235.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an equal round. So then I get a rounded to the nearest penny. And how much should my cost of goods sold for selling 510 toys or items at $3.338235? What's my total cost there?
That is 1,702.5.
Good.
Oh, okay.
Good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry my green batch down, right? And I'm going to eliminate it. So we're going to eliminate 510 items. So therefore, how much items should I have remaining?
have a 340.
We have 340. Good. Okay. Same idea here. If we had $2,837.50 and I sold $1,702.50, how much should I have remaining?
$1,135. Oh, yeah. I think it's,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Good. And this batch was the green batch. Okay. So now I'm going to eliminate, or I'm going to update my inventory, because now I only have 340 units left, giving me a grand total of 1135 even. Okay. All right. So that was May 15. All right. Let's go back to that cost of goods sold. So because I put my totals all together, right? When I journalize this, I'm going to journalize it as a collective total of 600 units at a grand total of $1,981.50, right? That's taking the 1702.50 and adding the 279 to get that total right there. And that's what I'm going to journalize when I say this is how much I sold. Okay? My cost of goods sold is this. Okay? So then let's go ahead and take a look at the next scenario, which is May 20th. We're going to purchase 300 units at $3.50 with the freight costing $20. Oops. So here we are. We purchased 300 units at $3.50 with a freight of $20. Okay. So in this case, what is my total purchases?
1,050.
1,050 plus 20.
1,070.
1,070, which brings my cost per item to be
3.566.
3.5 6666 and going so on and so forth. Okay. So once again, I'm going to copy that information into my inventory on hand. All right, that I have 300 units at $3.5666, which should give me a nice total cost of $10.70. And now I'm going to go ahead and make this one a new batch of colors so we can keep track of this one as well. I'm going to make this one blue. Okay. So then let's see what happened next. So then May 22nd rolls around and we end up selling 450 units at $10.25. So in this case, it is 450 that we sold on May 22nd. So let's go ahead and take a look at our batches of inventory. Okay. Which batch are we going to sell out from first?
Green batch?
The green batch of 340. So 340. Now, that's definitely not enough to get to 450. So how much more do I need to sell from my blue batch? We need to sell 110. Good. Now, because we're going to eliminate the entire green batch at the 3.33, okay, this one we know it to be the, what is it? The 1135, okay. All right, and since we have that, I'm going to go ahead and eliminate that right away from my batch of inventory. So there we go. 340 minus 340 gives me 0. Okay. My 1135 minus 1135 is going to give me 20. Okay, and I'm going to refer this batch to the green batch because that is what we eliminated. Okay? So therefore, I'm going to come up here to my inventory on hand and I'm going to get rid of the whole batch of inventory, just like that. Okay? So now I only have my blue batch, okay? And how much is it going to cost me per item to sell each batch, to sell the remaining of the 110 items? What's my cost per item?
The 3.56667.
So then that's going to equal to me, how much is my cost of goods sold? What's my total cost of goods sold?
About 403.33.
Did you say three, what?
403.33.
I did not get 403.33.
$392.33, no?
That's what I got. 392.33. Okay. So then I'm going to carry this blue batch down and I'm going to eliminate 110 from there. So I should have now a remaining of 190, right? 300 minus 110 should give you 190. Okay. Now I'm going to take my 1070 because that's how much my 300 was. And I'm going to subtract out 392.33. So what is going to be my remaining balance for the leftover 190 items?
$677.54.
Not 54.
So maybe I didn't use all of the decimal.
Okay. In this case, it's 1070 even minus 392.33. There's not much decimals there. We're not calculating the cost.
I just multiply the 190 for the 3.56666. So maybe that's a mistake. So we have to subtract the number that we have here. Okay, from 1,000. So that's what you're doing. You don't multiply the unit for the price.
Not
Actually,
here.
it's supposed to be the same number. I don't know why I have this mistake, but maybe the decimal. That's the reason.
It could be, yeah, you might be calculating a couple decimals too short. So in this case,
Short, yeah.
300 minus 110 gives you 190, which should give you 67767. So in this case, it's 3.5666666666666. I'm going so off more. Okay. So there we have it. All I have is one batch left of inventory, which is the blue batch, for 190 units left at a total of 677.67. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sorry.
No worries. I'm just wondering if you figured the number out.
Well, I try to digest everything, so don't worry.
Okay. All right. All right, so let's see what happened next. So we just purchased and then we sold 450 units. So let me see if I sold the 450 units. So I sold the 450 units at a total cost of $15.27 and 33 cents. Okay. So next thing we have here is we end up purchasing an additional 650 units at $3.75 each, with the freight costing $50. So 650 at 375. 650 at 375, and the freight was $50. Yes, $50. All right, so what is going to be my total purchase?
2250.
No, what did I got? 2250. It's 650.
Oh, 650.
650 at 375.
2437.50.
Good. And then add your $50 freight to give you a total cost of
2487.50.
$24.87.50, which brings my cost per item to be
3.82692308.
okay. Good. So once again, now that I have a new batch of inventory, I'm going to carry it into my inventory on hand so I know how many items I actually have left available on hand. Okay. All right, now I need to pick one more color, and in this case, let's go ahead and choose. Let's choose red. Okay. So that means this batch of inventory here is red. Right? So last but not least, you on the 27th of May, you sold 740 units at $10.25. So sold 740 units. On May 27th. Okay. Now let's take a look at our batches of inventory. Which batch of inventory are we going to take out from first?
The green one?
The green one. We don't have green left.
The blue one?
The blue one, yes, for 190. All right. In this case, we're going to get rid of the whole entire 190. Okay. So this is going to become a calculation. Okay. Now in this case, 190, which we already know to be a total of the 676.67. Okay. But I'm just going to go ahead and just equal round it once again, being consistent. Okay, comma 2 to get my 676.67. Okay. And once again, because we have that, I'm going to go ahead and eliminate that from my inventory on hand. Okay. Okay, to get 0, right? And this was the blue batch of inventory, okay? This is just so that we can be sure to keep track of it. All right? So therefore, I'm going to go back to my inventory on hand and say I got rid of this entire blue batch right there. That means all I have left is 650 of the red batch, okay? Now, how many more do I need to sell to get a total of 740 units?
$550.
550, okay? At a total, at a cost per item to be the 3.8269. Okay. So then what is my total cost of goods sold for selling those 550 units? What's my total cost for selling the 550 units?
2,104.81.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to eliminate that. So how much should we have remaining now?
100.
We have 100 left. Okay. Right. If I started out with $2,487.50 and I sold 2,104.81, how much should I have left?
382.69.
Good. 382.69. And this is all going to be my batch of inventory that was for the red one. So let's go ahead and last but not least, update that. So I only have 100 left, which verifies that I have $382.69 left on hand. All right, and let's go ahead and take a look at the end of the scenario. On May 31st, you have 100 units on hand. Okay, excellent. So that is it for the first section of the scenario on how we use perpetual inventory, use this table to eliminate and update our inventory, right? And also calculate the cost of goods sold. So far so good. You guys did okay. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and take a quick 20-minute break here. And then we'll continue the last half of this